Well, hello again to all you super very wonderful people as always, and for the second week in a row here. My name is Sal and I'd like to welcome you all once again to the newest edition of my weekly series of Weird Mind Newsroom, where for another week we'll be giving a focused array of new releases, trailers and news stories across the media landscape that will have you missed or unsure what was out this week. But let's not waste too much time more on these usual discussions. Let's get to talking all things media that we have for this week.
She's really good.
On the first of the new releases for this week will be in the focus of some returning realm of a blast of the past at both point in time for this title, as one day you are casually living your life on the usual hijinks of the suburban streets, and the next minute you find yourself fighting for your life on something that you thought was extinct for millions of years without any clear explanation. But we'll be taking the concept of There Goes the Neighborhood quite literally, as David Robert Mitchell is back from his success of It Follows None of the Silver Lake to bring an all-new prehistoric sci-fi tale with the release of The End of Oak Street. And the film will see a mysterious cosmic event ripping Oak Street from suburbia and transporting their neighborhood to someplace unknown in the far distant time period of the past, where a family will soon discover that their very survival depends on them sticking together as they navigate their own new, unrecognizable, and more dangerous surroundings. Reception on this new film has been decently well received, with praise on the concept, performances, and being an interesting approach to the genre of dinos outside of the Jurassic Park and World series, though some critiques say that it can be a little wonky with pacing and maybe the 80s nostalgia or Spielbergian tones can be a little excessive, but it seems like a success overall. But if you want to check it out for yourselves, you can catch this new film out now in cinemas. Our second film this week is with the focus of return to a place that we may be familiar with from a bygone era and where we all had some memories of a summer's past. But it seems after many years that was presumed left as a time capsule to the past, it seems the count will be open once more for another final jam session. As after 16 years since we was labeled as the final jam, we have the release of the third film of Camp Rock. Now the film will see the Connect Three, or the Jonas Brothers, returning back to the camp to find a new opening act for their concert tour. Now, among some campers like Sage, Desi, Rosie and others, the competition to win the coveted spot will soon spark rivalries and romances as everyone's fight to stand out. Reception to this third film seems to be decently received from critics, though a little more underwhelming from audiences that see it as a decent continuation or return of the series, though it feels a little bit overly cheesy and some have some issues with some cast members and some form of love triangle dramas, but I have no clue what all that is, but I'm sure it's probably a harmless little adventure overall. But if you want to take a return to the camp, you can catch this new film out now on Disney+. On the side of TV for this week will be a return to a series that has been a recent action title that has a massive sense of popularity in the series and novels it's based on, as well as the massive size of the main protagonist, as this field agent is back once again as with the release of the 4th season of the popular Prime series of Reacher. Now, based on the 13th novel of the series of Gone Tomorrow, it will see a case of Reacher dealing with unforeseen circumstances when a chance encounter with a stranger on a subway train goes horribly wrong, and it will soon draw him into a complex and deadly game that pits him against ruthless foes in the highest echelons of power. The reception new season, like the first 3, have been very well received with praise on the continued focused narrative, action and performances, particularly of Richardson's charm, and if you're up for more high-octane action, you can watch the first 3 episodes now on Amazon Prime, with a new episode releasing every Wednesday. The last of the new releases will be one that may not be the biggest of gaming titles, but I'm putting it in here as it has the potential of a game that will be a spiritual connector to a popular title from one of gaming's biggest studios, and will be bringing many back to the days of the early era of the 21st century, in some capacity, as the company behind the Grey Hill Instant will be intriguing their new school-based title of Agefield High Rock the School. In this title, set back in 2002, you will play as Sam, a new student at Agefield High who will deal with classes, relationships, bullies, jocks, overly hot or perverted teachers, and all other ordeals a young prepubescent teen will deal with as you build to the ultimate goal of ruling the prom and rocking the school. The reception on this title, however, is not the most well received currently, as while the concept and potential as a title akin to Rockstar's Bully is there, and some of the story has gotten some praise, the game is brought down by poor syncing issues, major noticeable bugs, and just feeling some elements are lacking in a massive world with little to do or interact with. But I'm sure it can have some patches or fixes down the line. If you want to play it like it's 2002, then you can play it now on PC, with console versions coming sometime later down the line. With all that regards now, that's all the new releases we do have for this week.
So are you, lazy bum?
Now moving to the trailers, and the first one will actually have a stars of the big new film release this week, but where we'll be fighting for survival against some dinos, they will be more akin to this to manipulating and creating a sense of dread for this ghostwriter that will have plenty of scares, as well as steamy affairs. Better know what you may find in some of those books now, as we have the trailer for the next adaptation of the books from Colleen Hoover with a new look at Verity. In the film, we'll follow Loan Ashley, played by Dakota Johnson, who was hired to become a ghostwriter for the renowned author Verity Crawford, played by Anne Hathaway. But soon things take a bit of a dark turn when she discovers chilling autobiographical notes. Faced with a series of deadly family secrets, Loan begins to struggle to separate fiction from reality, while also blurring the lines with Verity's husband, played by Josh Hartnett. Now, I talked about it before, but there's quite an array of opinions on the adaptations of books by Hoovers, but some of these have their appeal, some that land flat, and some that will cause an overblown legal drama that expresses some people of how they truly are in some form. But in this case, there was a sense of appeal in the choice of the stars, with Halfway having the appeal. Dakota, while not having the strongest of positive filmography, still does have some appeal in some form, and in some films like Materialists. And then Hartnett has some decent roles when he pops up from time to time. And I've read elements on what this film initial book is about, and it seems interesting, and the whole psychological manipulation scene in the footage seems to be all building to something that I hope at least is a solid film adaptation, and not to another mess like Hoover's previous adaptations. But I'm sure we can see what comes about this when these pages when the film was published into cinemas on the 2nd of October. Our next trailer this week is taking more of a focus on a post-war based narrative that we often don't get too much of a focus on, but will be a case that after dealing with a focus of one war, they'll have to get on a battle, survival, loss in a deep wilderness, as we have the release of the newest film trailer for Heart of the Beast. In the film will follow Special Forces Officer James Bellman, played by Brad Pitt, as retired combat dog Odin, after a plane crash in Alaska. Stranded deep in the wilderness, he will face a lot of harsh weather conditions and dangerous wildlife, and show the dedication of survival and the strong bond between man and dog. So I remember watching the first trailer a while back, and was the footage I had seen many have been from the CinemaCon, and it's one that those films had an interesting focus. In all cases, usually a David Ayer production is usually a solid watch. Now hopefully the dog makes it out of this in one piece. Now I know there's some elements of concern with the major star Pitt currently lately with him ending his sobriety, but hopefully it will not be of a detriment and will give a chance of being an overall decent watch, and seems like it could be worth checking out in due course, as it'll be making its way into cinemas in about a month's time on the 25th of September. The remaining trailers for this week comes from the focus of a lot of major aspects of the news, and this is with some of the biannual D23 conference, and this first one is bringing us an all new look at the upcoming project that will be dropping at the end of the year, The Bang. And as the ideas of how we'll get here and what will occur on this day will be all seen as the clock continues to count down. As just coming a few short weeks before the first full-length trailer, we received an all new special look at the upcoming event film of Avengers Doomsday. Now set 14 months of the events of Thunderbolts, multiple groups of heroes from different universes, which include the Avengers, Wakandans, New Avengers from 616, Fantastic Four from 838, and the original X-Men from a separate universe, converge to face the existential threat of Doctor Doom. Now I talked about the first one was a couple weeks ago, and in that case I was seeing a lot of discourse of people saying that it was a mixed opinion on the overall footage, as was the ideals of Doom not having massive build-up. Then again, neither did Thanos, and look how well that turned out. And in this case, this new one, which was one from Comic-Con and the conference, is seeing a lot more of a change of appeal. That and maybe Spider-Man got people back into an interest for the saga. I mean, that movie's already made $2 billion. And from all the teasers and trailers and having a lot more of a focus on the film, I'm ever so more excited than I already was. I'm looking forward to this, but I'm sure you will see the overall spectacle as the clock continues counting down all the way for its release in the cinemas from the 18th of December. The second trailer from this event is another big news story of Marvel. There's one more, we'll delve into that in the news section. In this case, we'll be returning to a series that has been quiet for a fair bit of time, and is a continued narrative of a series that spawned as a conclusion to a TV series trilogy that started all the way in Westview many years ago, where we focused on some genres and down a witch's road, and on the last one we'll focus on an android that will have to find themselves once more, as we have the release of the full-length trailer for the upcoming new TV series of Vision Quest. Now after being resurrected at the end of WandaVision, the android Vision, played again by Paul Bettany, lives in hiding while they attempt to understand who he is by communicating with various AI personas that are embedded in his programming, including the return of rogue AI Ultron. Soon, when a bounty is placed on his head, he will go on the road with a mysterious teenager who may be his reincarnated son. Now I have to say, the entries of this TV trilogy of shows was quite the unexpected outcome that started with a series of trippy genre-based TV shows that some say stumbled in the finale, but still was entertaining. Then the Agatha All Along series was a surprisingly very entertaining one, and I feel we'll have something that will build to the narrative from this overall third part, with its conclusion focused on the character we have seen in some capacity across the second half of the Infinity Saga, but very little in the multiverse side. And getting a focus on them in this series I feel will make the most sense and maybe build up to where he is in the Avengers movies and the rediscovery of his two kids with Wiccan and Speed. Probably more the latter one in this regards of things, but I guess we can see. Maybe we cross paths down the line. The Return of Ultron is also an interesting one, and I wonder if we'll see the comic accurate look at the character in this film, or will be the one from the Avengers film, as it's shown so far. But in all sense, I'm interested to see this somewhat trippy digital world and narrative in focus soon enough. And it's not too far along from release either, as the new series will be premiering on Disney Plus from the 14th of October. The next of the trailers for this week will be a return to the realm of the powerful tales and beings of the gods of legend and mythology. And in this case, we have many new stripes, their claim and concern across the mortal realm, from the skies and the seas in recent memory. But it looks like we have another go around for this adventure series with everyone's favorite half god going back for another ordeal to take on what we have in particular, as we have the release of the trailer for the upcoming third season of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Now based on the third book of the Titan's Curse, and we'll see Annabeth has been captured by the forces of Kronos, which will see Percy embark on a perilous journey to rescue her that will include freeing a goddess in chains, confront the Titan's curse, and avoid triggering the fall of Olympus. With the aid of Grover, Percy will have to form some unlikely quest mates to confront a prophecy of dire consequences. It really has shown a case that if you give some respect and dedication to a franchise and adaptation, they can make something that has the potential to be done right, which will have to be seen here given the next book in the series never had the initial film adaptation that the first two did. If there is a sense they did majorly well with those first two, then I'm sure we'll get another successful one with this third season, and I'm sure I'll eventually get around to actually watching the 3 seasons at some point because I feel it'll be an interest to me in some capacity. And this new season does look interesting, but I'm sure we will see by the release of this new series onto Disney Plus from November 20th. Our last of the TV and streaming based trailers for this week will be bringing us back to the Tales of a Galaxy Far, Far Away to continue the story across the galaxies of some of the tales of the heroes and fallen adversaries of the battles between good and evil as we return to one of those survivors of that long and deadly war and the fall of her mentor to the dark side, where we will see her continue her developing skills in the ways of the Force while also coming to terms with some deep questions on who she wants to be. So after 3 years since the original first season, we have finally received the trailer for the second seasons of the Star Wars series of Ahsoka. The new season will focus on Ahsoka and her apprentice Sabine Wren as they find themselves on the planet of Paradia on the other side of the galaxy and must find a way to get back and help in the fight, while Grand Admiral Thrawn leads the remnants of the Galactic Empire against the New Republic. I can give the efforts of Filoni and some of the other creatives in the Star Wars series the creation of this character first established from the Clone Wars and then given some revitalized appeal from her first live action appearances in The Mandalorian, that seeing her return as a more experienced Jedi after many years brings appeal. And from how this new trailer is showing that season 2 is going more in a lot of action and conflict this time around with new lightsaber based weapons, a focus on a popular film in this series, and the return of more Anakin, that maybe will have a lot more appeal going into this saga in an era when the appeal of this series coming back in a positive way is needed more than ever. But I'm interested in checking this out, and thankfully we have a release date for this as well, as a new adventure will be dropping on Disney Plus from the 20th of January next year. Our final trailer this week is one focus in the side of gaming, where in this case will be the focus of many worlds and titles that we have seen across the many genres and years of the massive company and studio across the decades, but in a focus that has some of the lands are corrupted by the elements of darkness and must be revived by the kindness of the heart inside of us and a powerful weapon shaped like a key that will seal the sides of light and darkness. But the location of this original hero has found themselves in a new strange place close to our own, as we have the release of the new trailer and unveiling of the new world with the upcoming anticipated title of Kingdom Hearts 4. The new entry of this long-running series will once again have you take control of Sora, who this time around finds himself awakening in a strange place known as Quandradum, a fast, realistic aftermarket-style city after fading away from misusing the power of waking. While Sora navigates this strange new reality and meets new characters like Strelitza and travels to other worlds from the vast corners of Disney, Donald and Goofy will search for him in the underworld and face Hades in order to find him. If there's anything I can say about this franchise is that it bewilders me in the light deals in many areas, because technically this would not be the fourth title given they had about the first two, then a boatload of spin-offs in the span of the following decade or more, then possibly more after 3. But I'll give the ideas that there is some interest and appeal of the series, and I do hope we give it a try at some point. Now, the unveiling of one of the new worlds of the title with Coco can be an interesting take on the series, and I had to wonder if since the last title was developed for a while, I don't know if we will see even more worlds beyond the Disney and Pixar realms and see more stuff from Star Wars and Marvel. But I'm sure we can get an idea of it and kept a surprise until the game's release, which, while we have no confirmed date, we now have a set release window for the title set to drop sometime in late 2027. With all that regards, that's all the trailers that we have for this week. Well, I've already alluded to it for the latter half of the trailers, but we'll be starting on the first of 2 compilation news stories, with the focus of the first one being another 2 years have passed and it's time for the focus of the big event of D23 that takes place in California once again. We'll be delving into some of the distinct updates and announcements on some of the big news stories across divisions of the company owned from the main Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars divisions. We got a bit of an order of covering what was available at the event, so let's see what was on offer in that particular instance. And we'll start with the department the most announcements for the event, with this would being the main studio of Disney. Now focusing it in the order of releases, with some to wrap up at the end, the ones without official release dates as well, but there's quite a trove of topics unveiled, so let's dive in and see what they have. So there's only one really remaining topic of focus that Disney gave a little of attention to for this year, and that is with their annual animated film, with this one this year being Hexed, where attendees were shown a new trailer for the film that I was thinking was probably going to be released during the weekend, but I'd give it later in the month or so. But what they did show was some extended scenes from the first trailer, as well as some new footage with unveiling the villains being a trio of witches that feel a little akin to K-pop demon hunters, and a focus focus on a new goofy sidekick in the land known as B. Roger Krumchuk, a bayou living free-eyed green cat that has their own form of magic, and this is confirmed to be voiced by Walter Goggins, who seems to take on the role well. Now I know there's still a fair bit of debate with this being very Owl House coded, but this has confirmed to not be based or built off of it. In the case, I will give them a chance to prove it, as it does look decent. I'm sure we'll see about it by the release in November. Next in time frame would be the return to a non-Disney owned property from a defunct studio, as the one next on release time will be the 6th Ice Age film of Boiling Point, which saw Dennis Leary and Queen Latifah come out and discuss some brief info on what we can expect from this new title, with it focusing on being sent the Return to the Lost World from the 3rd movie. And while no new footage was unveiled to the public, well, bar being leaked and uploaded online, it was focused on Scrat and Baby Scrat in the conflict over getting that acorn stored for the winter, and everything falling apart in the process, leading to landing in front of a mother load of acorn that is in the possession of a dino-sized squirrel. And I'm intrigued to see what will fully come of this narrative, as there's a bit of a guilty pleasure tone to these movies for me. I'm interested in checking this out when it drops on the 5th of February next year. Now for one that I feel is a long time coming for a character that has been in a while lost to time, but making a return from return to a recent pair of video games and hoping for a trilogy conclusion in that regards. And that is with Jon Favreau coming out to reveal an all-new miniseries based on Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, with the confirmed to be dropping as a free episode miniseries in February next year. Now, not much was overly shown, but we did unveil this series will see return to some 2D hand-drawn animation after all these years, and the footage shown in the event saw that a small rabbit exploring the halls of the Disney studios and coming across Walt's preserved office, and seeing a sense of curiosities abound. It does look really nice and wholesome. I feel and hope this will revive the character for a new outing in the future, but I'll be watching this when it drops in February next year. Jumping ahead a few months to another IP that is now under the banner of Disney, and that is with the longest running animated series. As some may forget that we have a sequel to the Simpsons movie coming out next year, with one available with a new title simply as The New Simpsons Movie. And while no plot details has been given to this film as of yet, the attendees were given a rough early look at the film with sequence shown of animatics, through storyboards of Homer and some of his other members of the Springfield chasing after a baseball that may be worth a lot of money. I'll see them travel across vast areas of the town to get their hands. It's an interesting aspect to think and discuss on what will come from this new title and what sort of hijinks they have finding with the top of the original film. Hopefully will have as big of a marketing push as the first one did, but I'm guessing we'll see about it when all the film drops in the cinemas from the 3rd of September next year. To round out the projects confirmed for next year will be one that may be quite a chill on the year, but as the song goes, the cold never bothered me anyway. Well, the some they do. As you unveiled to confirm that the next animated film following the Hex is with the Frozen movie, where we get some concept of a powerful winter woods. They showed off the standees of Elsa and Anna, and attendees got to see the first bit of footage for the film, with it set to take place after Anna and Kristoff's wedding. And we'll see them face off against an actual established villain of an Ice Queen, which, going off the brief glimpse in the footage leaked online, they're going in the form of initial design of Elsa with the villain, which I could see as a good callback. And the other being the news is that the follow is that it will not be a two-part film, with Frozen 4 dropping a year later, as was initially foretold a good while ago, and the other is that Olaf will be also getting a love interest in the film in the form of Samantha. But I'm sure we can hope that in all sense of things that we'll at least have a focus and structure this time around, and not like a few weeks one that the sequel had, but I guess we'll see when it comes out next Christmas. Now you probably thought they haven't mentioned about live action remakes. They must not be making them anymore after Moana bombed. Well, that is now confirmed for next year yet, but they have confirmed they will be getting 2 in 2028. And one we already knew about, we'll get to the first one here, and this is more recent take on anime tale from the studio getting the treatment first, as it came along and showed a brief teaser and first look at the upcoming and currently filming live action remake of Tangled. They gave us the first look at Rapunzel in the teaser and a brief unveiling of Catherine Hahne's mother Gothel, before she took to the stage to talk in the new take on the film, introducing a video from the lead 2 stars on the set. Now since this footage, there has been a debate on the choice of casting that mainly comes down to Rapunzel. Some feel that she doesn't really look or feel like the character, whereas Gothel and to some extent Flynn have been seen as solid interpretations, but I see no issue in any of the actors, bar the male leads' opinions and stuff. And my only nitpick is maybe her outfit in the sleeves, because it feels a little too much like some form of a sheer silk gown over her arms that granted it's similar to the original dress design, but maybe it just looks weird compared to the anime counterpart. But maybe that thought will change, which was how I thought with the Snow White dress in that particular instance after a while, and this higher raising adventure will now be dropping in cinemas from the 31st of March next 2028. As for the live action remake is one that we knew of the release date for and will be coming out shortly after. That is the only case of another remake getting a sequel after a brief window instead of taking a couple years or whenever they decide to. Like that initial planned Jungle Book sequel that I'm guessing is not just happening anymore, but now is with a live action sequel to Lilo and Stitch. Now not much was actually shown in the event, and that was given a focus to the main star of of Lilo on stage with the voices of Judy and Gary from Zootopia, before the stage screen is interrupted by Stitch saying hello to everyone in attendance and wearing a light bracelet. But then it's revealed another experiment will be making an appearance in this follow-up, if it confirmed to be 624 or Angel, who seems sort of a love interest for that blue alien. Now, it seems from this they will not be taking the approach of Stitch has a glitch, possibly, but maybe some elements from the TV show, but it's hard to really say at the moment. I do wonder if this will see a sort of redemption arc as well for Jumba, who was a villain in the original remake, as well as the likes of introduction to Gantu or Hamsterville or any other 600 experiments, but I'm sure we'll get an idea of this soon enough by its release in late May 2028. We will see these characters much sooner in animation form, with the Lilo and Scratch short coming out alongside Hex this Christmas. The last of the confirmed date reveals is with the other animated film to be dropping into cinemas at the end of 2028, and while it was initially reported as Frozen 4, this confirmed this will not be the case and will now be the focus of another new original known as Clay, with this one following a character named Flip that's voiced by Kieran Culkin, who will betray a reluctant mentor who is chosen during an annual ritual to become the mentor of a new person. In this case, will have to work cut out for them when they being a creature made out of clay named Mushy. Now, the first look image looks really striking and appealing in the bright colors in the striking world, and I'm sure will have some appeal and intrigue into the new location, and a bond and hijinks will surely ensue. I do have to wonder in some form will this maybe have a little bit of a mixed media, as given the tile characters made from clay, that I wonder if it will be like a 2D 3D animation but also claymation for Mushy and some part of this world, akin to how they did it with the older projects like Tarzan and Treasure Planet, which was a blend of 2D, 3D and deep canvas. But I'm sure we can get an idea the film comes close to release at Christmas of 2028. Now on the likes of the tiles that don't have any current projected releases, but we start with Anne Hathaway came out of the stage for the third time this episode we talk on her, and talked about both the 25th anniversary for the original entry and some news about a planned third Princess Diaries film that they will be working and developing it as they are and want to make it the best they can be, and will likely be at a bit of a time before that happens given she is expecting a third child, so congratulations to Mrs. Hathaway. And then the other reports that may be the possibly confirmed that the other big name in the films of Julie Andrews may not be returning for this third movie, but sometimes with that I doubt some aspects of these things. Either way, I'm intrigued to see what they will do with a third film, but in the case of me talking more about being a princess, shut up. One that was expected and given how much it teased in the post-credit scene that was bound to happen, but at the end of the event they confirmed that Zootopia will indeed be getting a third film, which also doesn't have a confirmed release window. Now the footage that was shown was essentially the post-credit scene with a slight new bit of footage focused on Paul the IT guy from the second film, with it confirmed that the next film will focus on the animals of aviation, focus on birds, and this one specifically on an eagle or hawk, but we have no idea on the concept yet. In all fairness, there is a lot of potential with this series of films in the world, and if anything, I just hope in the case that they will give plenty of time for this one to be developed, even if it's another decade for the third film, just to make it feel great like the first two was. But I'm all for returning to the bustling metropolis for another case, but we can see on this down the line. The last of the big announcements from the main Disney studio was a series that was long been in the rumors, and it was not just the new trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, as confirmed that the full-length anime series based on the game series is also in the works for Disney Channel and Disney+. Now it's unclear if this will be a sort of a retelling of the original series of games and the spin-offs, or if this will tell a new story with those familiar characters like Sora, Riku, Kairi, and others, as well as Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, as they stop the Heartless from destroying the many worlds, but I'm sure we'll get an idea if as the show goes into deeper development and if the new game will have any connection to it, but I guess we'll find out more about it as all time goes on. Anyway, that is all from the main studio in particular, but let's delve into the sub-studios of there. Starts off with the biggest one, with the longest one here in this particular instance. And that's of course with Pixar, who had the second most amount of topics and focus in this event that we'll cover on to now and some of the first studio focus in the order of release. And we start with the project that closed off the Pixar section of the showcase, is where we'll start with the next one coming up, and that is with the studio film of Gatto, where audiences were treated to a clip of the film of Nero trying to obtain a distinct instrument from a street performer and enlist the aid of a very enthusiastic and possibly insane pigeon, voiced by the film's director Enrico Casarosa. And it's from the connection as well to the street musician that we'll see Nero's dedication and lifestyle be questioned, and it seems like there is an interesting aesthetic to it all as well, of them unveiling a new trailer at the event for the attendees. I think from all the images and clips of the use of the new watercolor art style and blending of animation will be something I hope we will start to see more of from this studio as time goes on. But I'm looking forward to checking this out when it drops along on the 5th of March next year. Now, there was the unveiling of one more new original in amongst all these announcements, and it was a tile I had heard floating around for a little bit of time, but it seems to have gotten a slight name change, with the new tile being revealed as Ghost Market, that will have the Pixar's first array into the supernatural and possibly horror. And will follow Kyle, a young content creator from Chicago whose vacation in Hawaii takes a supernatural turn turn when a late night search for food leads to a hidden market on the crossroads between the living and the dead. I'll be drawing some heavy inspiration from Asian culture and spirit cuisine. Now, a fact that has some people complaints is having the use of the bean mouth animation look, but I personally don't have too much of an issue to that style. I'm intrigued by the glimpse that Pixar unveiled in a short online, and from what I've seen from other creators posting the longer version on socials, but I'm interested to check this out with another original from the studio when it drops on the 10th of March of 2028. Down the latter side of things, we're back to some of the follow-up territory, as after ending their 2024 D23 segment with this announcement, we finally have some new focus and ideas of what we can expect from the third entry in the Incredibles series, where we will be given a brief ideas of some story details, with this one being a major focus on the kids of Violet, Dash and Jack, trying to prove they can be trusted and taken seriously as the main heroes. You'll not see the parents sitting this one out, as we'll see them return to the public eye again after supers were made illegal again by the aid of Winston Dever's program from the second film, which shows heroes and Winston are confirmed to be returning, as well as Frozone. And we'll see Mr. Incredible having a continued identity crisis about if the superhero world has left him behind, which will come into full force when a new antagonist that was only briefly teased in shadow, not given a full explanation, as Pixar CIO Pete Docter is cut off by Edna Mode. It does sound like a bit more of a lot more potential, and I have a lot of faith that it will be an entertaining entry. My only one concern was with the case of not aging up the characters that many hoped for even out with the sequel, but maybe they found a decent reason to keep them at the age they are. But overall, I'm very excited for this, and we'll be checking this out by its release on the 16th of June in 2028. The last of the announcements from the focus pieces from Pixar will be bringing us back to a very colourful land found across the Petal Bridge in the Land of the Dead, as we got our first look at the sequel to Coco that will see the film set a few years after the events of the original, with Miguel all grown up into a teenager, allowed to become a musician. In this plot will see him return to the Land of the Dead and have to team up with an unexpected adversary to stop something terrible happening in those lands, and that is with Ernesto de la Cruz, who is back for revenge. Since the release of the original about a decade ago, it has definitely grown on me and many others as one of Pixar's best and most emotionally charged films. While I can say that the likes of a sequel is likely unneeded and kept as a one-off film, there is still that small sense of curiosity that is intrigued to see what they have for this follow-up. I look forward to checking this out when it does release in the cinemas from November 2029. But that's all from Pixar, however, so let's time to move over to the superheroes. And this is with Marvel. And while we had covered essentially most of the news with the two trailers unveiled, there is one other big announcement at the event that was reported and rumored for a few weeks now, but we finally made a thing at the event where it was available to confirm that the first film to release post the multiverse saga will be the MCU take on the X-Men, with the film set for release on May 5th, 2028, and also unveiled some of the cast members, one I'll be keeping spoiler free on the moment. Now we knew two already, with Samara Weaving from Ready or Not playing Emma Frost and Kit Connor from Heartstopper playing Cyclops, but there was a few more additions, which include Christopher Abbott from Girls as the new take on Charles Xavier, horror breakout star Indy Navarrete from Obsession portraying Rogue, theatre actress Maya Boyd as Storm with her film debut in this, and after many years of asking and rumors, they finally confirmed that Adam Driver from Marriage Story and Star Wars will be taking on the role of Mr. Sinister, serving as likely the film's villain. Now there's been some mixed opinions, mainly with Indy's casting, as many wanted someone with a southern twang to her role. In the case, she fan cast and wanted to play Mystique for the MCU, but I see it as a solid choice. Plus, the original cartoon's voice actors made a video all the way in my home county to support her casting, as they do with all these choices. Now, the big debate will be on the casting of two other big members, with Magneto and especially Wolverine, but I'm sure we will come to that bridge when we do. But overall, I think it's a solid lineup so far on this take on the mutants. But that's all we have left to talk on Marvel, so let's delve into what was on the other side sector of the company's IPs in a galaxy far, far away. And of course, that last stop is with Star Wars. As well, we don't have too much to talk on this section, besides the new Mandalorian film dropping on Disney Plus on September 2nd, now there are bits planned to be shown for the 50th anniversary, including re-release of the original New Hope. There was at least one project given a bit of a focus, and that was with the new Starfire film from Sean Levy and starring Ryan Gosling. Well, most of the info told was the name of the character of Cade Oberon, as well as his sigil, the Space Skull, that I'm sure will be made available by the end of the year, and in most cases the attendees got to see the first bit of footage of the film, with Cade having escorted a young kid across a vast and dangerous galaxy, with glimpses of a lot of high-octane action and visual set pieces that I'm very interested to see what will come of this title. I hope that there is still a lot of life in this series. I felt the Mandalorian film was actually a decent watch overall, but I'm sure we'll see by the release on May 28th of next year. And with all that was all the concept in mind that was presented to us at D23's event. I want to say there was a lot of interesting announcements and projects unveiled that I'm looking forward to. Sure, there was some aspects I wonder if they would talk on, the likes of the recently announced, Monsters Inc. sequel. I thought we'd get something information about, or even some sense of a news about the live-action Hercules movie, and that's some announced nearly a decade ago, and we've no major updates or confirmation of casting yet, or if it's been scrapped or not, given the case that Guy Ritchie and the Russo brothers are quite busy the last little bit. But besides that, I'm very interested to see the outcome of all of it, and I'm sure we'll be back here in under 2 years' time for updates on the more media and other updates on the parks as well, but the world from the Magic Kingdom Company once again. What do you think of all these announcements? What was your biggest surprise of the event for you, and what did you hope to see shown in the event, and what are you looking forward to the most? Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. You thought I was done? Well, it's that time again, and if I was done with all of it, you'll be mistaken, as we of course have a selection of some of the usual array of the hodgepodge that will mainly focus in the area of some stories outside of Disney, focus solely in the areas of casting and project announcements and updates, but we'll see what was presented to us across the narratives of media news for you from this week. We'll start with project announcements and updates side of things, and we'll start off a change to a project that will see a bit of a mixed response, as after taking the reins of the series of the recent title last year, it was announced last week that Gareth Edwards will not be returning to direct the follow-up to last year's Jurassic World Rebirth. The reason on their decision to drop out of the follow-up is from what's been described online as being creative differences that could be from the ideals and concepts the original series writer David Culp has come up with, or maybe it's the studio of Universal or Spielberg being involved in some way, but in this case it will have to be seen what was the real major focus reason. Now in all sense, I didn't hate last year's entry. It had some interesting ideas and concepts, and visually was not a bad film either. Some bits could have been avoided, like the whole stranded family aspect, but I think it has some of that moments when they can. Now, I feel that this push there will likely be a possible ceasing on the project, or else you'll have to be a focus of finding someone else that will bring some unique and fresh take on the series, but I'm sure sooner or later life will find a way and have this new title in general ready to go. Now at the moment there's no word on about any to fix this or who they have in mind for his replacement, but if there's any updates I'll provide that in a later episode. Now most of the project updates are with some changes or shelving of some other projects, and in this case this next story is from the area of some superhero projects that is disappointing to hear, as it looks like another aspect of the DCU plan is losing another pair, as reported that planned series of Waller and Paradise Lost, which is the project on the Amazonians and Wonder Woman, have reportedly been shelved. Now there's been a lot of shakeups and mixed things going on at the company that I see as some being a little weird in choices to go into the start of the new DCU. I've seen a few other projects on the wayside of it, or the case that maybe all the company buyout and merger causing a few other issues, but I do hope in some case they will have a plan to make them a reality down the line. Now it's not all shelving and shutting down the projects, as while the Paradise Lost series may be off the radar for the moment, it's still confirmed the Wonder Woman movie is still a focus and priority and is on the way when they can find a casting of the new DCU hero. The other is an update to Booster Gold, where I mentioned that it was not fully been cancelled and will be looking for some new writers for the project to make it an actual reality, but I'm sure we will see what comes of this studio. I feel with this new project out next week that we'll see if the likes of many new franchises or cinematic universes, they'll have a few stumbles and make a return to these and all their characters and stories, but I'm sure we can see as the DCU is fleshed out into the future. If there's any updates about this, I'll let you know in a later episode in particular. On the side of the actual project announcements, it looks like Hollywood is taking the approach of let the younger audiences and creators on socials and YouTube to have a chance to make the next big thing, but the choice and project in mind for this one will be a debated one, as was reported earlier this week that they were getting a new film based on the creepypasta character of Jeff the Killer, that it would be made by TikToker Savannah Moss. Now the ideals in deciding to add another creepypasta character to a full-length film is not a new thing, as we saw with the disaster of 2018's Slender Man and then a success with this year's Backrooms, another project in development of Siren Head, so they are tapping into this something awful forms for many of these projects. The choice to helm is where a good chunk of debate has been seen online, with many saying not to support it, as it seemed that Moss created another short film recently known as Funny Bunny that used a hefty amount of generative AI, and there's a concern that will be the same with Jeff. Like, I'm not even sure if the image above is even AI in regards to things, or this is like the original touch-up photo. So there is a lot of concern to be seen as a lazy excuse to make a bit of cash, but maybe it could be something that could turn out to be an all-human made and actually be a surprise, but I guess we can see. At the moment there's no word when we expect this project, but if there's any updates about this, I'll let you know down the line. The last of the project announcements are rumors in the realm of some gaming news, and it seems in this case a fair bit of magic will be building again. The likes of some wands will be at the ready. As according to some reports, it looks like we're getting a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, with the report being that the game will be revealed at this year's Gamescom in about 2 weeks time. Now I have played through the original game and it's all on my channel, you can check out here. I'll say it had some interesting aspects of narrative and gameplay that I'm sure some elements can be added and improved for follow-up. However, this also comes with a caveat. This IP made from the world is owned by the very bad author that shall not be named, and it ends up being released with just being an excuse to line their pockets and spout their very harmful and hurtful comments about the LGBTQAI+ community, especially to the trans community, and in the case of I do support the trans community, and I emphasize in the very first episode of that playthrough series, and if I basically make profit on that, that's going to a trans community supported fund. I've seen as a case of the knock-on effect that people will overlook the drama to buy it or will probably go against buying and playing it, but I guess we'll have to see. Now, as I did say, this all just rumors for the moment, and I'm sure we will see if the reveal is at Gamescom, but I guess we could find out by then if a return to this magical world is expected. Keeping it with that IP for just a moment, in the first of the new casting updates, this next edition has many waves online, and not in a good way. As while there have been discussions and talks the next season as unnecessary retelling is underway, a new casting has caused a lot of backlash as we talk of the news that Superman and the great star Nicholas Hoult has been cast in the upcoming second season and will be portraying the role of Gilderoy Lockhart. Now, the character appears throughout the second book as the pompous wizard celebrity that may be a little bit of a fraud and has been a bit of an ego and was initially portrayed by Kenneth Branagh in the original film. Now, the world where the offer was not connected to the books, the casting would have been appreciated, but like with any new edition of these known actors portraying the characters in the book, bar the young actors, have been critiqued by many for joining up when some views that have not lined up with them, that don't line up with the offer, and many feel that make their opinion against her feel a little flat if you're in the project. This has now been aimed towards Hoult for joining in on this project. It just really seems like this project has been a massive mess, and many signs point to if this remake was a good idea at all. But I guess we will see by the first season's premiere this Christmas on the viewership numbers, but maybe some of these casts could decide to drop out when we least expect it, but I guess we will see. If there's anything new for this project, I'll let you know in another episode. Now, moving from book to game adaptation casting, this one has not been set in stone and more in the rumor space, as we're talking once more about the upcoming Legend of Zelda adaptation. Now, we talked on the films last week where we got the confirmation of the castings for Ganon and Impa, as well as confirmation the late Sam Neill will also be in a new film in an undisclosed role, alongside the confirmed castings for Link and Zelda from a long while ago. But we have another name looming around the casting and portraying another important character from the series, as has been foretold the casting for the role of Hylia in the movie, the choice being with the new Emma Frost herself of Samara Weaving. And the choice in the casting is quite an interesting one, and personally I can see the ideals of her playing the original goddess and as the first version of the princess and protector of the Triforce would be an interesting one. And given she is a big gaming fan herself, and then I can see her being a close look at the character she may be portraying, and I would not have too much of an issue with this casting if it is true. Now, as I mentioned at the start, it is just a rumor and will likely have to be confirmed by Nintendo from their app or from the release of the trailer at some point. But I'm sure we will see by then, and once I hear anything about this, I'll let you know in a later episode. The last of the stories will be in the focus of the ideals of an ensemble, as things will be a little bit more sweeter, or I'll come crashing down in chaos, as we got an update to the upcoming new animated sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Charlie versus the Chocolate Factory, as we receive some new casting additions as well as a new official release date. Now, we've already known of two leads, with Kit Connor portraying Charlie and Taika Waititi voicing Wonka, as well as directing the title. But we have another 6 additions to the film, which includes Nicola Coughlan from Dairy Girls, Shatara Chowdhury from One Piece, Samson Kaya from The Bubble, Christopher Chung from Slow Horses, Kate Winslet from Avatar, and Helena Bonham Carter from The Crown join the roster of characters in this new animated world and would follow up right The Crazy Outcome. Now, besides this casting, they've also revealed that this official release date, and it's a little bit of a timeout for now, as the film will be releasing first in the cinemas from the 5th of November next year, before it will be dropping onto Netflix from the 22nd of December. So it'll be a bit of a festive treat for next year, and I'm intrigued to see what will come of this whole project. I do hope we will see some new footage in due course, but I'm sure we will get a lot more of an insight to it all over the next few months before we will see this drop next November, but I guess we'll find out. But in all that regards, what are your thoughts on all these? Do you think Edwards will come back to direct a new film, or do you see the series going dormant, or who should take over the directing duties? Do you see the Waller and Amazonian series developing further? Do you think a Jeff the Killer film will work out? What are your thoughts on the Hogwarts Legacy sequel, and will you play or avoid? Do you think Holt is making a good choice in the HBO adaptation casting? Is Weaving a good choice for Hylia, and when do you think we will see footage of this film? And what are your thoughts on all the new additions for the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory follow-up, and will you check it out in the cinemas? Let me know your thoughts on all this down below. With all that regards, that's all the news stories we have this week. In our case, with all that regards, it ends episode 169, a very long one of Weird Mind Newsroom. And hope you join ramblings for probably going to say about half an hour or so. Anyways, I'm going to fly through this conclusion and give some quick updates on what to expect the challenge. So, reviews wise, I'm just about continuing more on the Last of Us one. I'm deep into the 3rd episode discussion, but that one's coming along. TADC will be coming next, and a few other films as well. I'm going to mix in particular, try and get a few more of these reviews done by the end of this year. This was the case of some Snack Size box office ones I have ready to go. I just need to edit it down for a little bit to fit in the 3-minute mark for YouTube Shorts, but we'll see, as well as the variations of the different genres and stuff like that. So look forward to those in due course. Gameplay stuff, I have a few more Tomodachi live streams I can upload. I'm gonna try and record a few more gameplays offside. I'm gonna spend some time to try and re-record a fair bit of Resident Evil 9 because it's missed the streams I couldn't properly grab, and I'll try and upload them all so you can get the full series on my YouTube. As was the case, I get back to DK Bonanza, get to Mario Wonder, get to Cyberpunk, to Star Wars Rebels. This was more a case like, you know, there's some horror games into Halloween. We'll do some more story games. We're gonna probably do more Resident Evils and a few different variation things. So we're gonna get around to those in due course. So look forward to those. And then long form stuff, we're gonna get back to the AI interest video, the rewatch-a-thon. We're gonna get to the horror most boards. We're gonna get some more time lapses. I'm trying to figure out what the next time lapse will be in that regards to things, but I know Pikachu is next to be edited and transformed into a full-length time lapse video, but we will get to those in due course. And in the case of things, any other long form variations will probably come down the line, so look forward to those. But with that regards, I'm going to end the episode there for now. So if you like what you see here and want to see more from me, more from me, to simply like, subscribe, as I upload new stuff every single week, and I'm aiming for 750 to 1,000 subs. I'd like to thank you all for giving me 600 subscribers as I reached that yesterday out of nowhere. I think the case the promo stuff is working well. I think as a recording about 625, so I think we might be able to reach 750 by the end of the month, so we'll see. But we'll hopefully just appreciate all the support for people checking out my stuff and sticking around for things in that regards. If you want to get yourself 10% off pure crack, use my code Sam Harrison. That's all one word in all caps, and you can find a link down in the description below. And let me know your thoughts on all things discussed this week, from new releases, the trailers, and the news stories this week. And let me know your thoughts on what you look forward to the most as well. So I'd love to have a conversation on these here. But in that regards now, I'll leave it there for now. So as always, you will see wonderful people. Have a great day every day, do many great things, and keeping you because no one else do what you do. Now, I've been your host, Sam, of course. Now I should see you all in the next episode. So take care, and I'll see you later.